What's up, y'all? It's your girl Vicky.the.Artiste, and today we are doing 7 advice tips for beginner artists. So, right here on my iPad, I have my list of notes, for the video. So if I'm looking down, I'm looking down. We're gonna hop right into this video. Remember, like, comment, and subscribe and share. Make sure to turn on the post notifications so we can jump back into this video smooth and you don't ever miss when I upload. So, tip number 1, stay open-minded creatively. And what this means is you don't want to narrow yourself down when you're a beginner in art and you're like, you see different things that you might catch interest in and you're like, well, I want to do this. No. Okay, what I'm trying to say is don't narrow yourself down to one topic, one side of the art world, because then you'll never know if you truly had a passion for realism, or if you truly had a passion for caricatures or creating characters, or landscapes. There's different types of art that appeal to different people, and as you explore your options, which is another point, I think point number 3 that I have, you'll start to understand where you fit into the art world, the art spectrum of things. And I think that's important as an artist, especially beginner, is to keep your options open so that you can kind of play it by ear, figure out as you go. There's no set time to just have everything together. You're learning, so let that be part of your journey. Tip number 2, you don't need the most expensive materials.
Oh my gosh.
I cannot stress this enough. Materials help, but you don't need the most expensive. It's quality over quantity, and then it's quality over quantity is very important. So if you're going to spend money on art materials, I'd recommend buying the Holy Grail products, and I'll do a separate video on that. Items that helped me in my beginning art journey. What you choose is more important than how much the cost is. There are certain products that I've used and I still use to this day from the beginning that aren't very expensive, and I like to have them with me. And the more things that you try, the more things that you use, you'll figure out what works for you. But don't go jumping out to the store, wherever you buy your art materials, Amazon, and just get
a whole bunch of things that you don't even know how to use yet.
It's not gonna help you. I know from experience, I lost and wasted so much money on things that I was never really gonna use, and they were super expensive, and I really didn't even need them. I started out personally, because I do realism, I started out with the number 2 pencil, and I now understand the concept of 6B, 8B, 4H, I'm sorry. As I learned more, I started getting more products that I thought might help me from where I was. But before you know anything about what you want to go into, I recommend not just buying a whole bunch of art supplies. Tip number 3, don't doubt yourself because you don't get it right immediately. Personally, most artists I know, most creatives that I know in general, like from music to the performing arts, we always like to get things right on the first try, and we stress ourselves out trying to have it perfect. And it's like, when you're new to something, it's not your responsibility. It's not your job to get it right the first time. You're trying things out. You're seeing what you like, what you don't like, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. This is an experience that you should be having fun with. This should be trial and error. As you continue to work hard and you practice, which is another point, you'll continually and progressively get better. And you'll find that maybe the way that somebody else does something, you might find a new method to do it. And that's perfectly fine. But what I will say is to never beat yourself up over something that you didn't get right the first time. I remember so many times where I was just like crying. I was literally crying at like 10 and like 11, like, but I wanted to get a realistic eye that somebody had like 10 hours, 10 years of practice on, plus 4 or 5, just anything that was more than me. And I wanted to get it right the very first time. But sadly, it's not how it always works. Sometimes things come easy to us. Sometimes other skills are harder to achieve. Just practice, take your time, and you will get there. I promise you, you will find your niche, your niche, and you'll be fine. Tip number 4, experiment with different mediums. So this follows the first point where I said stay open-minded creatively. Don't narrow yourself down to certain material. If you have access to a sketchbook, if you have canvases, if you have paint, try anything that you have right there. Try any creative materials that you have. There are people that, you know, there's ballpoint pen art. There are different materials that you can use. You can do random things that you find around your house, dip them in paint. Just try different things. Broaden your perspective. Don't limit yourself creatively to what you've seen other people do, because you can always be the change that starts. You can always be the new thing that nobody's seen. You never know what can come from just experimenting with something that you may not even really be interested in at the time. Tip number 5,
practice.
I really cannot stress this enough. Practice is what got me from point A to point B in a matter of months. I literally would just draw all day, draw the same things over and over and over again. It was a journey. I will insert a picture here of like a drawing that I did that, I don't know, like it was just a drawing that I did, and then I'll show you a picture of where I am now. Practice and time and continual repetition of skills that you're trying to develop is so crucial in art. And I also recommend dating your art. So if you did something like 2 months ago and you look back now, you can see, oh wow, this was 2 months of progression from where I was before. This is what I've increased on. Let me see what I can work on next. And set like a schedule and mini goals for yourself in art. If you're really trying to make this a career, I'd definitely recommend researching other YouTubers, researching videos, finding out what works for you, finding out what tips and tricks are helpful, which I will also be doing another tips and tricks video coming soon. And yeah, just keep practicing and you will definitely see your progress over time. Tip number 6, you can always turn something into something else. I remember when I was in literally like kindergarten and I was in an art school. So in class, she told us this story about a girl who erased her paper so much, and as artists, we always are erasing something. There was this girl and she always,
There was a girl.
and so in her classroom, when she was doing art, she always erased so hard on her paper that one day she erased a hole into her paper. And she asked her teacher for another paper and she was like,
No, work with what you have.
so the girl was so sad and she was crying and she was like, but then she had an idea. So in her idea, she decided to take the hole that was in her paper and make it into a moon. So she made a beautiful night sky and the whole
Her paper was in.
Moral of the story.
When you mess up and you make mistakes, you can always make them into something better. As artists, we have the beauty of a creative mind and we can turn things that don't even make sense into something beautiful, something new, something nobody's ever seen. And I think that's just such a beautiful part of art. There's no right or wrong answers. You can play around with things, you can change them, you can make them your own, you can make them new. And I'm learning even myself to try to do that more, so I don't feel like I'm failing every time I don't get something as like close to the reference or like how I saw it in my head. Because even as you do these things, you're still learning from your mistakes, and without error there's no progression, there's no learning about what you could do better. Last but not least, this kind of goes with all the tips combined, but
Create your own voice.
And what this means is don't get so stuck on a specific art style that you lose your own originality. If you have any ideas that pop into your head while you're looking at a reference or you're trying something new, kind of go with it and see where it goes, see what you can create from that idea and that reference, and maybe you'll come up with something even better than you even thought you could create at the time. I suggest, as an artist, I'm not really a big fan of sketching out things before I start because I'm very impatient and I'm working on that. But I suggest sketches because they kind of help get your mind flowing. If you do like 3 sketches of the same idea in different concepts, you can kind of get an idea of what you might want to try to do before you even do it. And I think that's a really healthy way of making that
creative blood flow.
My best advice is to just go with things, like mix things together, switch it up, try different mediums, do multimedia pieces where there's paint and graphite and acrylic. Just try different things and see what works for you. I hope these tips helped you guys greatly, and if you have any questions you can put them down below. I hope that this was an eye-opener for you as a beginning artist, and if there's any other questions or any other videos that you want me to try and explain, please let me know down in the comments below. Turn post notifications on, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video where we will have a art tutorial. God bless the creative creatives. Bye guys.